Hello and welcome to Pluribus Unum's Fireside Chats. Not as good as FDR's, but hey, it's something. As you may notice, I have not been here for a while. I went on a brief vacation. All I really did was get dragged to the beach with my family and, well, didn't necessarily do well. And, well, I'm back now, and then after I get back, immediately college work kind of just got boom, because it's like the end of the semester and everybody's doing like the midterms and blah blah blah. I don't think I will get an episode out of the main series this week. Possibly next week. I think I'll get an episode of the main series out next week. Because, I mean, you know, maybe I'll be able to write it down. And I've also been kind of busy on some, like, other things. And, you know, the little bit of life I have, so there's that. But hey, I'm back now to at least do fireside chats for the time being, because these are the ones that are really interesting to do, because I can actually sit down and do them all in one sitting. Hooray! Also, I may be getting some interviews out soon with people I might not even agree with a lot. Oh no, I have a challenging interview to do? Gee, I hope I'm not Dave Rubin and just go, I agree with that. But before I get into that, let me do a little bit of something that I haven't done in a bit. A shout out. Now, I like to shout out at least people that are smaller than me. So I can't shout out someone like Mr. Beat or The New Left because, I mean, they're the ones who should be shouting me out because I'm the small 110 sub guy. But I can shout out this person, and that person is The Hill of Roses, hosted by John Munitz. He started making videos after me. I wouldn't say he's inspiring me because, I mean, I don't think he is. I mean, from what I've seen, he's not technically, he hasn't taken, things from me to make, I mean, I think pretty much all we have in common is, political views, and we make podcast videos. These podcasts range from 7 minutes to an hour. I know that's a very large leap, but, I mean, that's, and at this point he has 37 subscribers. And I mean, come on, that's not, he deserves more than that. I mean, give him a couple of subs if you like my fireside chat content. You may like his show. Kind of similar in some regards. The only difference is you get to see him. And I'd say maybe I do a bit of the breathing more. But, I mean, from what I've seen, they're rather similar. And there's not much we disagree with. And I also have links to, his Twitter account if you want. He should really update his website, though. I mean, not rushing you, but, that would be an interesting thing to, update your website a little bit. He also does, these, on his Twitter, he does, these, like a tournament of, certain topics. I mean, he could do that if he wants. I mean, I'll vote in them. It's not necessarily something I would focus on if I were him, but, I mean, I have my show, he has his. I mean, it's not like we're in a Young Turks or Real Progressive style situation where me, him, and the New Left, are part of this, collaboration group. But if we were, I mean, I'm just saying, if we were, I wouldn't mind. DM me, and nah, it's probably too much work. It would probably be too much work, anyways. If it were to happen, we'd probably need Progressive Voice, because he's got a better audience than all of us. But anyways, I have, his links in the description, and blah, 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 blah. If you wanna watch his stuff, go ahead. He provides a lot of quality stuff. He did a video debunking all of the Julian Assange smears, and, that's a plus, so. But anyways, now that I've got that out of the way, let's get right into the news. Some of this news was old news, but this is something that I wanted to cover anyways. Pete Buttigieg suggests national service program. Democratic presidential candidate Pete Buttigieg on Monday night advocated, not this Monday, it was a while ago. But we really want to talk about the threat of social cohesion that helps characterize this presidency, but also this era, the mayor of South Bend, Indiana, told MSNBC's Rachel Maddow. One thing we could do that would make, if not legally obligatory, but certainly a social norm for anybody after they're 18 spends a year in military service. Buttigieg mentioned that for him, serving former presidents including John F. Kennedy and George H.W. Bush serving in the military allowed them to meet, build, trust, blah, 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 blah. Pretty much, he's saying if we join the military, it'll build character. This is a terrible idea, Pete Buttigieg. And this kind of made you leave a lot of people's progressive radar. Even not just this, a lot of other things made me just kick you off the progressive radar entirely. You're literally saying what? It's not progressive to be yeah. I think that it would be good for us to, have military service. Everybody who's over 18 serves 1 year in military service. What's the big deal? The big deal is that is not a progressive thing. Progressives want to end a lot of the military issues. They don't they're the ones that instead of holding the gun, they're the ones who put the flower inside of the gun. The classic picture of the New Left. Not the New Left, but the actual movement, not the YouTube channel, who is clearly ripping off Jimmy Dore. I'm not going to say I don't rip off the other guys. We all do. The only original progressive news host is the first guy to do it, and I don't know who it is. Even the first guy who did the progressive news on the radio, he was just ripping off the conservative guy who was doing it on radio. But anyways, the only thing I think he's actually newsworthy outside of, some presidential announcements is Sargon of Akkad, anti-feminist YouTuber, selected as UKIP candidate for the European Union. Social media commentator previously drew condemnation from the party spokesperson over a clash with Labour MP Jess Phillips. UKIP has selected an anti-feminist Eurosceptic YouTube commentator as a candidate should the UK take part in the European elections next month. Carl Benjamin, who posts online using the moniker Sargon of Akkad, is one of 2 candidates in the Eurosceptic Party named on Thursday to stand in the Southwest region. We went through an exhaustive process to shift over 190 potential candidates down those National Executive Committee representatives that I felt were suitable, UKIP leader Gerard Batten said. This is a list of a number of factors that we felt could select candidates to fight for the real Brexit after the European elections. UKIP's priority is to have MEPs who fight to make Brexit happen. Mr. Benjamin has close to 1 million subscribers on his YouTube channel, of which he produces videos criticizing feminism, left-wing politics, and the European Union. He gained mainstream attention after being accused of promoting a series of rape threats for Twitter users against Labour MP Jess Phillips in 2016. Miss Phillips had written, "People talking about raping me isn't fun, but has become somewhat par for the course," on social media, leading Mr. Benjamin to reply, "I wouldn't even rape you, Jess Phillips." Oh! As you can see, I didn't know what Sargon... typed. This is screwed up. Sargon, dude. What the F, bro? First of all, I'm gonna do the pros and cons of a Sargon candidacy. Pro, political YouTubers, they just gotta step up, my friend, because the thing is, political YouTubers, they're seen as secondhand, they're secondhand smoke. You got who's gonna get a bigger stage at Politicon? Glenn Beck or Hunter Avallone? Glenn Beck. Even though nobody gives a shit about Glenn Beck anymore. people care more about Hunter Avallone. And now, every single political YouTuber, they gotta step up because Sargon just legitimized it because he is now a political candidate. Now, there's actually been some people who have been a little controversial about Sargon's candidacy, no duh, because, Sargon's whole thing is that he's, controversial. One of the things that many people have been saying is prepare to have a lot of Gamergate candidates, which I actually was the first person to think about it and think, actually, the first Gamergate candidate was in 2018, Brianna Wu, who was one of the women involved in Gamergate, who was like basically, her and Sargon were on opposing sides on Gamergate, I guess. Her whole campaign was that she beat the alt-right at Gamergate. And, well, she's the first Gamergate candidate, not Sargon, so, there's that. There's, of course, bad things because, Sargon is getting destroyed in the UK media. He has said a lot of things. He said the N-word. He has, of course, said this. He has said a lot of things that people are gonna rush to. In fact, I think many people might point out the fact that he made just a shift from the right to the left, literally in a blink of an eye. He went from, I support Bernie Sanders for the presidency, to Trump is the best candidate ever. And in his interview with Progressive Voice, he was literally he's like, Sargon, you supported him because, he was campaigning against the trade, keeping the trade deals. Not keeping the trade deals, but campaigning to keep the jobs in America and not touching Social Security, Medicaid, and Medicare. Now he's openly come out against those things. Do you still support Trump? Of course I support Trump because he triggers the left. Boy. Oh boy, he triggers the left. Oh boy, that's a solid reasoning behind supporting a candidate, buddy. The reason why he gets to say this is because he doesn't live in America. I guarantee you, if he lived in America, he would shut up and be like, look guys, seriously, you cannot vote for Donald Trump again. This, Sargon, I don't really care about Sargon, really. I don't watch his show. And I'm every time Sargon got brought up in the media, I was always like, who's Sargon? I don't know who this man is. It wasn't until recently I'm like, oh, this is Sargon. Oh. He's, so he's a hypocrite, pretty much. Yeah, I guess that's the thing. He's a hypocrite. But, there is also some things where, apparently he tried to get a campaign account, and then Twitter suspended it. Now that's screwed up. Twitter, I don't care. If a political candidate is running and needs to use Twitter to get his, social media thing done, let him. That's just freedom of speech, boy. It's literally, people talk about foreign agents in elections. This is a big thing. Also, Trump vetoed the Yemen bill. There's not much I can say, except for Trump is killing children. Have that on but that's not going to get mentioned in the media. That's not at all going to get mentioned by the media. Trump is literally killing children in Yemen. Well, yeah, but Trump also said, grab her by the pussy. That's all the humanity. Oh, boy. The problem is, the mainstream media wants to bring up the non-issues with Trump. The issues that literally there's nothing. But when there's actually, something legitimately bad about Donald Trump, the media's just crickets. Trump is literally killing people in Yemen. Oh, he said grab her by the pussy. Even though Trump campaigned on keeping jobs in America, Trump is actually shipping away a lot of jobs. Yeah, but he said that John McCain wasn't a war hero. Oh, humanity. I don't care. The actual policies are what gonna win the election. That's what's gonna win in any point in time. The dirty language means nothing. Like many people, sadly, after he was gone from office, I learned about a congressman by the name of Alan Grayson. Alan Grayson is great. He's the, quote, Donald Trump of the left. But technically, since he was before Donald Trump, Donald Trump is actually the Alan Grayson of the right. Like, he would point a finger in your face, tell you you're BS, you're wrong, you're stupid, you're ugly, you're fat, and he hates you. And then he'd be like, and then people would just be like, yes. Like, here's a quote that Alan Grayson said in regards to one of his Republican allies, not allies, but one of his Republican, associates, saying that carbon dioxide in the air wouldn't harm humans.
Regarding my friend from California and what he just said, if he thinks that carbon dioxide doesn't cause any human health problems, I invite him to put a plastic bag over his head, tie it tightly around his neck, and see what happens next.
Grayson wasn't ousted once until he tried to run for Senate, and then the Democratic Party went like, hey, I know you want to be senator so bad, but we have someone who's also running for Senate, so we're just gonna smear you so you can't have another political career again, okay? Great. And then he went up to Harry Reid and was like, do you know who I am? Yeah, I do, Mr. Grayson. Say my name. I want you to say my name. This is what Alan Grayson was made for, but this is not the Alan Grayson show. If Alan Grayson ever comes on the show, you'll be the first to see it. But anyways, now on to 2020 Watch. 3 candidates have entered the presidential race since the last show. First, we have Republican Bill Weld officially announcing a primary challenge against Trump. He is going to lose. I'm predicting it now. Weld is just going to immediately just fall off the grid, and at most, he's going to win Massachusetts and nothing more. That is it. That's all I have to say about Bill Weld. And they might say, wait, well, wouldn't you think that a more Republican style, like a more libertarian style, Republican would, win? Yeah, well, I would say that. Like that it would have a better chance of getting some notoriety. But his first campaign ad stunk. It was not at all talking about Donald Trump and his issues with the more libertarian crowd. All his ad was like, Donald Trump says bad words. How can we live with a president like that? Thus indicating that he's not trying to go for the libertarian support. He's trying to go for the neocon support. Which is bad. Which is no. The Libertarian Party got kind of mad, and I'm going to ask someone, about that, just to see if there's any really hard feelings, or if this is just like a goodbye kind of thing. But, Weld isn't really going to get far. It's just a given. But anyways, Seth Moulton also announced a 2020 run, not 2021. No. Seth Moulton. Now, before I continue, think in your mind, who is Seth Moulton? That silence is pretty much your head. Nobody knows who Seth Moulton is. Nobody cares about Seth Moulton. Seth Moulton is literally his only contribution was he was one of the moderates who was like, I will not be voting for Nancy Pelosi for speaker because blah 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 blah. Because she's too far left and we cannot have really new blood. He identified as a progressive Democrat when he was first elected, even though he clearly does not know what that means, as he has always been on the side of the New Democratic Coalition. There have been some people who have been a part of the New Democrat Coalition, but have also voted against what they would more than likely be in favor of, such as Jay Inslee, or Jared Polis, or Brad Miller. They have been relatively good people in Congress, but they have also been a part of the New Democrat coalition. This guy has pretty much been like, he's just like the big moderate guy, and which does not bode well considering there is literally 1 million of them already. One of whom is someone that he was in favor of during another run. He was in favor of Tim Ryan when he ran for Speaker against Nancy Pelosi a while ago in 2016. He voted for Tim Ryan, and so did Beto O'Rourke, but, I mean, we're not going to hold that against him because he's part of the new progressive flavor now. But, of course, we all know the big name, the 100% big name that everybody has been waiting for to run for president since day one. Oh, wait, I already mentioned him. Seth Moulton. I mean, the weird thing is Seth Moulton and Tim Ryan. Before I get into, the one that I'm obviously talking about, Seth Moulton and Tim Ryan, this has literally been their entire presidential speculation. 2018. Hey, Seth Moulton, you think you want to run for president? I don't know, maybe. Hey, Tim Ryan, you want to run for president? I don't know, maybe. 1 year later, I'm going to be on this TV show. I may or may not announce a presidential run. And, I mean, of course, you know who is Joe Biden has officially announced a 2020 run. I will say, look at his logo. Notice how that D is getting a little too close to that E? Is that an indication of something that actually happened? But then again, remember, Joe Biden said that that little boy gave him permission to touch him. That just sounds so wrong when I just say that. Just like, the little boy gave him permission to do so. Yeah, because if Joe Biden did not have... Well, I mean, Joe Biden is Catholic, so... I mean, that's just a given. He's Catholic. What did you expect? But anyways, Joe Biden, many people have been, having a lot of speculation. Will he win? Would he win? Could he win? Will he beat Trump? Who's he going to appeal to? While many people have been saying that Joe Biden would appeal to the middle of the ground, the middle of the country, the blue-collar workers. That's horseshit. That's not true at all. Who is Joe Biden appealing to? Who did Hillary Clinton appeal to? The rich. That's Joe Biden's crowd. And that's the crowd he's going to stick with. Joe Biden literally said in a 19-something interview when he was in his, 20s about, hey, will you take money from these special interest groups? And he said, I wanted to do it. I was willing to prostitute myself to them. I'm not kidding. Listen.
Senator, I'm sure that you would agree that your service in the Senate up to this point has not reflected any particular concern for the larger contributors.
Well, the fortunate thing is I didn't have many larger contributors, and the only reason... See, I went to the big guys for the money. I was ready to prostitute myself.
And just like a prostitute, you give them money, and they do what you want. That's exactly how Joe Biden is. They give him money, he'll do whatever they want. He'll vote for whatever the heck they want, because Joe Biden, he doesn't really have a set... Let me give some things about Joe Biden. This is a big thing that, this is a big, it's coming from both a meme and, but this meme comes from, real life stuff, so it's kind of prevalent, and I'm going to add some of my own things to it. Which Joe Biden is your favorite? The one that attacked Anita Hill? The one that wrote the disastrous crime bill? The one that wrote for the, Omnibus Counterterrorism Act, which later became the Patriot Act? The one that voted against gay marriage, the one who voted to repeal Glass-Steagall, the one who voted for the Patriot Act, the one who voted for the Iraq War, the one who voted to end bankruptcy protections for students, the one who presented George W. Bush with a Liberty Medal, the one who said that Mike Pence was a good person, and then clarified to say, oh, I meant it a foreign policy way, not in the anti-gay way. The gay part, no, but I like the rest of his stuff. Or the Joe Biden that touches children or women without their consent and then just goes this is a thing that happened. We can't overlook that Joe Biden walked up to a lady and was like, he told Heidi Heitkamp, spread your legs, you're gonna get first. This is not normal. This is not normal. In an alternate universe, Anita Hill would be talking about Joe Biden in the case, and Clarence Thomas would be the guy who was head of the Senate Judiciary Committee. You want me to tell you something funny? There is a very notorious preacher, slash, like, priest, preacher, whatever, named Pat Robinson. He is well notorious for being anti-gay and anti-democrat and anti-left and blah, blah, blah. But he was in favor of legalizing marijuana the same year that Joe Biden said that marijuana should stay illegal. And it wasn't like in the 1970s. It was like in the 2009 or 2010. This is the thing. Joe Biden, he does not represent the current Democratic Party at all. The current Democratic Party, they want the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes. They want the Tulsi Gabbards, the Mike Gravells, the Bernie Sanders. They want that guy in the driver's seat. They don't want Joe Biden. They want someone who knows what the heck they're doing and is actually going to stand up for, what they want. They want all of the right stuff. They want the populist left economy. They want the populist left issues done. But Joe Biden, he's not going to do that. And the thing is, many people have been saying, like George Takei, me and him got into a little bit of a scuffle. And by scuffle, I mean I tweeted at him, and then he deleted his tweet. Where he said, we can't criticize the Democratic Party right now. Look, 21 Democrats have currently announced that they are running for the Democratic nomination in 2020. 21. 7 of them are good, the rest are crap. That's the truth. That is the truth. That is the truth. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. It's just a fact. And, I mean, the worst part of it all is, well, many people are saying, Joe Biden's probably the front runner. I wouldn't say that. He's got, a lot of catching up to do. Because here's the thing. Bernie's got the momentum. But Joe Biden, he does have, he is going to do everything in his power to get that nomination. He's going to do what Hillary Clinton did twofold. So the thing is, Tulsi, Gravel, I love you guys. But I think that, and Warren too, I think that maybe, just maybe, you should probably start at least indicating, maybe you should at least vote for this man, the Bernie. That's my biggest problem with Mike Gravel. Why endorse Tulsi? She's not gonna be the nominee. She isn't. And I know people who like Tulsi are gonna say, well, that's a bit mean to think about. The thing is, her whole point of her candidacy is to give Bernie her delegates, pretty much. That's her thing. And, I will appreciate her if that's what she does. The thing is, if Warren or Tulsi don't give Bernie the delegates at the convention and then Bernie loses, well, neither of them will be loved by me. But anyways, that's her thing. She's pretty much gonna give Bernie the delegates at the convention, possibly earning her a spot as VP, but, same old, blah, blah. But pretty much, Biden is a bad choice. I will not be voting for Joe Biden ever in my life. You could vote swap with me tomorrow and say, I'll vote for, whoever the Green Party nominee is in this state, and you can vote for Joe Biden in my state. I'll still vote for the Green Party candidate. You'll just be giving another vote to the Green Party candidate. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. So, let's start with the thing. The smaller candidate of the day. His name is Jack Charbonneau. Bono? Pretty much his thing is, he's an independent outsider who's running to have a constitutional amendment to end the Electoral College. That's it. That's pretty much it. I had him there just because it's tradition, blah, blah, blah. why don't you cast a vote down below and say if you want this to continue or not, or blah, 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 whatever. But anyways, like, now let's move on to the main topic of this video. The thing that I have been trying to get people to do for a while. The Q&A. And you kind of disappointed. Not, I would say disappointed. That's a bit harsh. But, I mean, I'm just going to say, you know, I kind of wanted more questions. But, you know, you can't look a gift horse in the mouth. So, let's just get this underway. I wanted there to be more, but the end. I tried not to pick questions that I've already answered in the past, but, you know, I think maybe it'd just be might as well. So the first question comes from Twitchy Paper. Will you ever do a video on the Constitution Party? I responded to his question with a comment saying, I have. It was one of my earlier videos. I may do an updated version of the video when there's more information about what the Constitution Party is up to next. Or maybe just do one with the Yeti mic. I mean, I don't know. The next question comes from Alex Kawa. Would you ever consider running for office? It's not a consideration. I 100% plan on running for office when I'm old enough. The problem is I'm not Elijah. I actually want to have the ability to take the office. Because Elijah, no offense, and I may be interviewing him in the future, but no offense, Elijah, but they're not gonna let you be president. They're not. Victor L. Berger was elected twice in a row to be the person who was elected to be the seat, like, in the House of Representatives. They just said, no, we're just not gonna sit you. You're just not gonna be a part of this. It's a thing that is just inevitable. You're not gonna be president, especially considering the fact that you're running with the Socialist Party. I mean, they haven't really done well in a while. They haven't done well since Norman Thomas died. But I did a whole video debunking your party. Not debunking, but like doing, talking about your party. But anyways, that's not important. Permanent Revolutionary says, I know you're a social democrat, but what are your thoughts on Rosa Luxemburg and her contributions to the socialist theory? Now, I didn't really know who Rosa Luxemburg is, and I think there might be a chance you don't really know either, so I'm going to give a brief synopsis to her for those who don't know. She's a Polish Marxist theorist, philosopher, economist, anti-war activist, and revolutionary socialist who was prominent for her, being part of the Social Democracy of Kingdom of Poland and Lithuania, Social Democratic Party of Germany, Independent Social Democratic Party, Communist Party of Germany. She's Lenin pretty much, they loved, he thought that she was great. She was well known for her far left extremism, so if you're asking what are my thoughts on her particularly, she seems very important in the Marxist. She seems like she is important, and it is clear that she has contributed a lot to socialist theory, and has been and a lot of new left people, people who would have a little bit more identification with me, they look up to her a lot. And well, I think that Rosa Luxemburg clearly was important in regards to, she even attributed valid, I would say maybe valid criticisms of October Revolution, and, blah, blah, there's some things that, some things, it's like I think she'd be similar to Chomsky in some regards to me. I don't necessarily sit by every day idly being like, oh boy, I wonder what Chomsky has to say, because Chomsky is further to the left than me, but even though I am called, every time I take the A values test, I get libertarian socialism, but, I'm technically more of a social democratic minded, I guess. like, I think it appears that I'm more social democratic minded due to the, not, like, I think maybe in my heart I want to be further left, but in my mind I'm like, we can't, America, we can't just go from, hey, we're welfare capitalists to, we need to end the bourgeoisie. I definitely have my more left tendencies, with criticisms of capitalism a lot coming from my life, but I'd still say I'm social democratic minded. But anyways, back to Rosa Luxemburg. She's clearly important to a lot of the socialist ideals. She's like, people like her. Like, trying to find a good, like, thing that, like Trotsky, the nice one, the nice guy who was, like, the guy who was pushed away by Stalin. He clearly shows that she was important by saying, like, we suffered 2 heavy losses at once, which merged into one enormous brevet. There have been struck down from our ranks 2 leaders of whose names will be forever engraved into our mind. Karl Liebknecht and Rosa Luxemburg. They have perished. They have been killed. They are no longer with us. I mean, and apparently her ideals were so important that Stalin had to vilify her. But yeah, Stalin and Rosa Luxemburg, they're the same person. All socialists are the same. I mean, like, it seems like she's very important to the socialist, like the socialist mind. She seems like very important to it. That's pretty much a lot I can say. Very important to the socialist mind. I keep trying to say socialist economy, but those don't work because socialists don't know anything about economics. But thank you, I'll be here all week. Haha, I should be a stand-up comedian instead of Jimmy Dore. Jimmy, how about this? I'll be the stand-up comedian with the successful YouTube channel, and you could be me. But I mean, yeah, she's rather important to the socialist mind, and I'd say she's, like, I like her. It seems like she's a decent person. She, like, there's a lot of people who, even if I think that they're wrong on a lot of things, like, maybe, like, I'd say communists, for the most part, are wrong, but they're coming at it from a right way. Like, I understand where they're coming from. And I'm like, dude, we can solve these problems. You're just going too far, my friend. We don't need to do this. We can just do this. Anyways, the next question. Pseudonym Kingdom of Christian Moyowasifza-Curry asks, what's your dream position in the Moyowasifza-Curry White House administration? Now, this is an interesting thing, because ideally, there are a lot of positions that I could see myself in, but I wouldn't necessarily say I would want them. Like, for example, technically, I could see myself as vice president, but I more than likely would not want to do that because, vice president, they don't do anything. It's a worthless job, pretty much. I mean, even though I technically would be the one that's like, yay, I'm next to Pseudonym, and I'm blah, 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 and we get to do the Joe Biden memes, but I wouldn't necessarily say that I would be a good choice, even for a like, the only advantage of the vice presidency is, you're next in line if the president dies, and that's pretty much all there is important about the vice president. Pretty much, the rest is worthless, but, like, I mean, come on. I mean, just think about it. When the vice president became the president, they wouldn't even appoint a vice presidential replacement. They just move on with his days. Ideally, it would be a position, like a cabinet position that needs a bit of an overhaul. Like, for example, the EPA, we kind of don't need someone who is, a climate change denier in that position. But then again, I'm not necessarily the best climate scientist, so I wouldn't necessarily be the best suited for that position. Maybe, like, head of the CIA, but then again, they have to be a bit more hawkish. Like, I mean, they don't have to, but they normally are. And I would say only that because I think the CIA needs to do some complete overhaul. Or maybe, like, head of the NSA. Like, I mean, it's a thing. It's a very interesting idea. I don't know necessarily. Pretty much, like, a complete, like, the cabinet positions that need a complete overhaul. Those are all the ones I think would be something important. Although, maybe, just maybe, to step in the position of Robert Reich, Secretary of Labor, sounds kind of interesting. Because it sounds like it's the position that a leftist needs to be in. Because, you know, if a right-winger who thinks that unions are bad and the minimum wage is bad and, you know, the richest 1%, they're the good ones and not the workers, why would that person be like a Secretary of Labor? Robert Reich had the right idea on being like, you know, in that position, even though I highly doubt that Robert Reich was like, I'm going to be in this position. He was appointed to the position. But again, like, pretty much all the ones that need a complete overhaul. Another position in that category would be like the Attorney General, you know, so I could do all the, you know, so the legal weed can get pardoned and blah, 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 you know, in that regard. But anyways, like, really the only ones I could see myself really being in would be administrator of the EPA, possibly the director of CIA, Secretary of Labor, Attorney General, but pretty much the gist of it is any position that needs a complete overhaul, or if you want to borrow a page from like Dennis Kucinich and other prominent lefties, maybe you could make a Department of Peace? But then again, probably someone else would be more like, pretty much the only two things I can really say is cabinet positions that need a complete overhaul, like, you know, Attorney General, you know, Labor, EPA. Those are really the only ones I could technically see myself in. Like, ones that would be somewhat beneficial to have a lefty in. But if there are other ones that you would say is probably like, oh, you could have a lefty in this one too. Pretty much all the positions except for certain ones, it's probably best to purely only have lefties in. Or maybe that's pretty much all I can really think of at the moment. Secretary of Labor, Attorney General, or EPA Director. Those are really the only ones I think would be the most beneficial to have lefties in. Like, the ones that I think would be the best qualified for me or someone in that regard. But, I mean, no offense to anybody, but I don't really see myself in any of these small fiddle positions. I see myself in the position that fills those positions in a different way, if you catch my drift. 2036, be on the lookout, bro. The Hill of Roses asks, do you think the same two parties will be the only main ones in power in the US in 20 years? Now, that is an interesting one. You see, because the thing is, they have been in power for a long time, so it is very likely to assume that they will continue to be in power. But, like, there will be some differences. You see, in my opinion, I think that, for the most part, the lefties in the party, you know, because no offense to anybody who's, like, a little, like, this is dark, but, you know, the Alexandria Ocasio-Cortezes, they're young. The Nancy Pelosi's, they're not. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all the older moderate guys, they're dying. There's no way to say it. They're dying. Now you could argue Cherry Bustos is clearly being bred to be the next Nancy Pelosi, but the thing is, it's clear that it appears that the country is shifting to the, like, if you look at Gen Z, which is my generation, the lefties they're further left than the Pelosi's, and the righties, they're taking a bit more of a libertarian stance on a lot of things. And the shift is there because Donald Trump kind of tried to appeal to the more paleocon kind of libertarian field. And, you know, the younger people of the parties, like I say, eventually down the line, it's going to be Amash, who's the head of the Republican Party, and possibly like someone like Ro Khanna as head of the Democrats. So they're going to still be around, but I think they're going to start taking a shift in regards to a lot of things. Now, does that mean that the establishments are going to go away? No, that could lead to two possibilities. Either the establishments leave to form their own party called something like the Third Way Party, which is kind of going to be like the trendy centrist party that always happens, or they're just going to stay in the parties, but are going to stay quiet, at least until another resurgence happens that makes it so that they are going to be, like, around, like, so that the centrists can rise again. And that's pretty much what I think will happen. Would I like to have the Green Party and the Libertarian Party be the dominant parties of the U.S.? Sure. But I believe that down the line, that's going to happen, just not with the Libertarian and Green Party name. Especially considering the Democratic Party is literally saying, we're going to take the Green New Deal. At one point, their Green New Deal is just going to be what the Greens put down on a piece of paper and said, we're going to do this. That's what's going to happen down the line. And I think, like, eventually, when Amash is head of the, like, and the Libertarian Party and the Green Party will soon become obsolete, and they'll dissolve to go into one of the two major parties. Because the thing is, unfortunately, the only thing that could happen and make a viable third party is if Bernie left and did the People's Party thing, but he didn't. And the People's Party, they're not going anywhere. I'm just being upfront. The People's Party, they're just doing jack at this point. All I see, this is going to turn into a brief rant for the People's Party, but they have done nothing. I have not seen a single thing of them. They have not run a candidate. They have not filed. They have not done anything. They are still just movement for People's Party. 2020 is around the corner. We don't have time for you to laze around to run with the Greens or shut up. That's the thing. I told them up front, like, why don't you just go to the Green Party? Well, the Green Party didn't have a thing. Like, they didn't have a little bit of, they need to have a base. And they don't have that base. They've spent too much time running presidential candidates to build a base. How about this? You build a base for them. They can run the candidates to run with that base. Okay? But nah, we gotta form a new one because it's gonna work. And, like, again, we don't have time to do that. If you're gonna run with a third party, just run as Green. Unless the People's Party announces tomorrow that they are becoming an actual party and they're going to run candidates, shut up. And that's the thing. Like, this is the thing. My biggest problem with these third-party movements is sometimes they just appear and fall. Americans Elect, they had everything. This is a spoiler for the Americans Elect video that I have planned. But they had everything. They got on the ballot, right? Like, it was Democrats and Republicans tied for the first amount of, like, they were on ballot in all states, then Libertarians, then Greens, then American Select. And they wasted it just because someone didn't get 10,000 signatures. If, like, People's Party, listen to me. If you're gonna do something, do something. So yeah, I think that the parties are going to stay, but they're going to have different colors, different faces, if you will. Like, for example, remember how the Republican Party was the harbor of progressivism, and the Democratic Party was the harbor of conservatism and states' rights, and how that kind of flipped? Similar kind of thing is going to happen soon, but they're just going to shift more to their bases, as opposed to appealing to the moderates in the establishment. We the People ask, what centrist party do you like/agree with the most? He asked both questions, but I kind of just melded them into one. Now that depends on what you mean by a centrist party, because there are some parties that some people would identify as centrist that aren't. Like, for example, there's just parties that are just like, I'm centrist. Then there are parties that are Christian democratic, which have a left-wing position on left-wing position on economic issues and right-wing position on social issues, which is, again, centrism. But then again, the Libertarian Party also has that position. So would you count them as centrist, or would you count them more as, just saying they're libertarians? The American Third Positionist Party is a political party that is super far left on economic issues and super far right in regards to social issues. Would you count them as a centrist party, or would you just count them as, a third positionist party? It really depends on what you mean. And again, that would be a varying degree of scales. Like, there's some parties that are right-wing on social issues, but then left-wing on economic issues. So who do you really trust? And especially considering, like, even though I say right-wing on one issue and left-wing on one issue, the left-right spectrum really only deals with your economics. We just say left on social issues because that's what has been commonly associated with the left. So, and I mean, what do you necessarily call a moderate party? Because there's some people who call themselves moderates that are really not. Like, for example, Richard Ojeda. He's called himself a moderate, but he's really more of a populist leftist. So, really, what would you do? I'd say technically, and then again, there are also some parties that are centrist in mind, but have social democracy as their form of economics. So, what would you necessarily say? I would say, like, at least in some regards, maybe, it would depend on a lot of things. Like, as much as I don't want, like, I've been sitting here kind of contemplating and, like, deleting, because sometimes when I think I don't have a clip right, I just pause and then delete that clip and then just re-record. As much as I really don't want to not answer your question, I really don't think I can. Because again, like, and especially considering most centrist parties, they're pretty much the same, like, in a lot of regards. Fiscally conservative but socially liberal. I'd say, to give you some kind of answer in some regard, I'd say maybe the anti-authoritarian kind of, like, I'd say, I guess, to give you some kind of real answers, it's really a case-by-case basis. For example, the Christian Democratic Party, I think that their left-wing economics are good, but their right-wing abortion issues is no. And, I'd say, like, parties like, the Libertarian Party are really good on a lot of social issues, but I think their economics are trash. So, yeah, it would be a case-by-case scenario. Now, that's pretty much all I can answer, because a lot of centrist parties, they're really just, like, smack dab in the middle on issues, and they're all pretty much carbon copies of each other. Like, that's the thing. A lot of centrist parties, they just pop up not realizing the fact that there are 30 others right there. Like, the Reform Party, it's there, but everybody keeps forgetting that it's there. Now, the next question is from Mr. Beat. Mr. Beat asks, who do you predict will win the presidency in 2020, and why? Now, again, it depends. Like, it depends on who the nominees of the two major parties are. Now, let's say Trump is facing off against Joe Biden. I would say Trump wins easily in that scenario. Now, despite the fact that Joe Biden is polling the highest, we need to analyze why he's polling the highest. He's being polled highest on a lot of the candidates in regards to the fact that a lot of he's being oversampled by older voters. Now, again, this is an interesting scenario because, I mean, honestly, some of the candidates, they could possibly win by smaller margins, but the candidate that I think, like, would be the best suited to beat Donald Trump in 2020 is, of course, my main man, Bernie Sanders. Now, of course, you may say, well, you're just saying this because you're a Bernie bro. Or maybe it's because I'm right. Let me explain to you. Bernie is constantly ranked the most popular politician in the United States. If you analyze the electoral results in the Rust Belt states that flipped to Trump, Bernie Sanders won 2 of them and lost 1 by a very small margin. And polling shows that Bernie could have easily beaten Trump, hands down, because he would have appealed to the white working class voters that lived in those areas. And if you take the polls issue by issue, 70% of the American people want Medicare for all. 62% of the American people want to legalize marijuana. 59% approve of a 70% marginal tax rate on the rich. 57% want to end all the wars. Who honestly holds those positions closer to their heart? Bernie Sanders. No duh. That's just the given. Bernie Sanders is the one who is the best suited to beat Donald Trump. I had a whole freaking quote-unquote debate with someone on Twitter about this, where he kept saying, like, but he can't win because he's a socialist. And I kept giving him these numbers. I'm like, he is polling high. He is... all of the issues that he espouses are popular. What about the socialist part is the thing. They're like, and he's like, but you won't vote for a socialist. Well, yeah, but if you look, these are the issues that do well against the American people. So naturally, you would assume a candidate who holds this, positions, he would actually do well. But he's a socialist. Well, yeah, but you need to actually analyze the fact that these issues are doing really well with the American people, and especially among Republicans, which would actually help Bernie Sanders in the long run, because a lot of Republican voters could possibly flip from Trump to Bernie because of the fact that many people who voted for Obama 2 times actually voted to Trump because they felt that Trump actually best suited the issues and was less elitist than Hillary Clinton. Yeah, but he's a socialist. Bernie Sanders, he was being cheated out of the election, and he still and he was still tailing behind Hillary. If that doesn't show how much people are willing to vote for Bernie and actually support Bernie, then there's really nothing I can help you with. Bernie is the best choice. Now, there are some people who would say, well, then who's probably got the second best choice? I'd say probably Beto or Warren. I'd say Beto was probably third or second. They got, decent chances as well. But I'd say, more than likely, this would be Bernie's the best bet, pretty much. Now, of course, does that mean the Democratic Party is going to learn from their mistake and, not cheat him out of the election? Clearly shows they're not. But, hey, it's their fault. They're not the ones that are going to be losing, so, that's life. Now, Mrs. Beat asks, what podcast do you suggest? Ooh, this is a toughie because, I highly doubt any of the podcasts I listen to you're going to be interested in. You see, the podcasts I listen to are mostly in regards to personalities that I like, and I don't really listen to a lot of political podcasts, believe it or not. I barely listen to my own. I don't really listen to a lot of historical podcasts or science podcasts or NPR. I don't listen to any of that, really. Podcasts I listen to are funny haha jokes. I don't think that they're going to be something that you would necessarily listen to. I highly doubt that you would put them on in the car while you're driving your kids to school. At all, really. You could do that for a historical podcast, and we're gonna discuss some blah 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 blah. Oh, I'll just listen to this while I'm driving my kids to school. but none of the podcasts I listen to, you're gonna put out for your children or anything. I barely watch the Joe Rogan Experience. I only watch the Joe Rogan Experience on like off days when he's got like an interesting guest, like Ben Shapiro or maybe Neil deGrasse Tyson or whatever. But like, yeah, you're not gonna like the ones I listen to. They're not anything that are like again, and especially considering like these are personalities you're gonna have to know from the get-go. Sorry to really disappoint you in that regard, but I mean, I honestly don't think that the ones I listen to you're gonna want to listen to. Especially considering the fact that like when I listen to them, I nearly suffocate every time I listen to them because I'm laughing so hard. Okay, maybe that sold you on it, but I mean, I really don't think that you're gonna want to listen to them at all. Like, if my podcast is any indication, you probably don't. What is your favorite video on your channel? Again, from Mrs. Wheat. Now, this is an interesting one because, I mean, it's also kind of dependent on a couple of factors. For example, like, all together, or do you want me to say, like, my favorite in the highly edited videos, or my highly, like, blah, 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 blah. Now, I mean, honestly, it's really hard to pick one. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, like, it's really hard to pick one. But, I mean, I'd say maybe the one that I think is, like, I mean, I guess I'm gonna say, like, which one would you want me to show to someone that I know to best get an interest on what my channel is? Now, I'd say maybe I mean, and there's also a lot of things that would be like, oh, do I have a certain video that I have sentimental value to, or blah, blah, blah. Like, I'd say my favorite, I'd say maybe one of my party history videos, because that's kind of the thing I actually wanted to do purely on this channel, but I think the podcast kind of also took a bit of a large shotgun and kind of, especially considering I don't really get to work on them that much, due to college and the other stuff. So, and the representative I would pick would be the one that I spend the most time working on, the Socialist Party video. I really like the Socialist Party video, especially considering, even though I kind of like treaded on some of the things I discussed in that video already in my video about Eugene V. Debs, I think that's, because that's the one I think I spent the most time on. I don't really check like how much I do, but I'd say maybe at least on the Fireside chat side, it'd be one of my interviews, because, I really like talking to, like, honestly, to be perfectly honest, I kind of wanted to have a co-host on the show, but it doesn't necessarily pan out when my friends either are too busy or don't really want to talk about politics at all. So, yeah, I mean, at least one of my interviews, or maybe all of them, and overall, I'd say the Socialist Party video, because I think it's the one I spent the most time on, and would be the best thing. Like, I'd say if anybody recommended any video for my channel, like, if you wanted to show one video to like, if you went to someone and said, you should check out this guy's channel, it's really cool, it would probably be that one. Like, the Socialist Party video. That would be the one that I would say you probably should watch. But, I mean, that's also 20 minutes, so that's kind of why it took so long. But anyways, the last question, that is, the last thing, it was asked by two people in two different ways. Who are your top 10/5 presidents? Now, I have actually ranked all of the presidents, minus Trump, in a previous video. However, I have actually recently changed my mind on one of them due to the fact that I tend to be more of a policy-based guy as opposed to, just a bit of personality based. Like if a president was like more personality based than politicized based, then I don't necessarily really care that much about them. But I mean, there's some, like, I mean, here's pretty much the new ranking of them. Number 10 is still John Quincy Adams. Great character and intelligence, more respectable than natives and slaves, and helped infrastructure, and was very important in regards to, like, the more federalist-leaning Democratic Republicans. I guess it would be kind of the kind of Democratic Republican I'd be if I were around. You know, a bit more of a Quincy Adams type guy as opposed to a Jackson type guy. Although I would have Jackson tendencies due to anti-establishment and hating the big guy in charge. 9 is James Madison, you know, father of our country, helped write the U.S. Constitution and Federalist Papers and was very pragmatic and changed his views. Like I mean, again, that's a good thing in some regards. Like, he actually looked at a guy and was like, you know what, yeah, you're right. Especially considering Alexander Hamilton was kind of like, just like, no, I'm right, the end. And, I mean, you know, it's a good thing this James Madison looked at himself and was like, whoops, I was not that right on this issue, so, I mean, in the end, like, I think the biggest thing is the National Bank. I watched this movie about the Federal Reserve and saw how, like, I mean, I was for the idea of a national bank, but like not like a national bank, but like a bit. I mean, I'm kind of like that's the thing. I'm kind of like a moderate in regards to like Democratic, Republican versus Federalist, because Federalists were mostly like the big preppy top guys, and Democratic Republicans were the people, but they kind of had like differing views on a lot of things and blah blah blah. But anyways. Number 8 is George Washington. You know, great character, set precedents for presidents, handled the Whiskey Rebellion well, stayed rather non-interventionist in a lot of his foreign policy. You know, not a lot of presidents get to do that. Even the ones that I like usually aren't non-interventionists. Number 7 is a major drop, Thomas Jefferson. You know, I decided I felt that it would be better to have mostly policy in my top 5, so you know I'm a more policy-driven guy than just a character-driven guy. Like, no offense to Mr. Bede, but, you know, number 1 president, George Washington, I mean, saw that coming a mile away. It's a bit cliche, wouldn't you say? But then again, mine is also kind of a cliche in some regards. Thomas Jefferson, he, of course, was apostle of democracy, Louisiana Purchase, blocked slave trade in 1806, fought extensively for civil liberties and secularism, you know, possibly due to the fact that he was a atheist, wink wink nudge nudge, possibly, I don't know, maybe. Number 6 is John F. Kennedy, New Frontier policies, founding of the Peace Corps, and though he supported the civil rights movement, he didn't really necessarily do a lot of things for it, which kind of makes him number 6 as opposed to other people. He was not, like, I mean, no offense, but everything he did, someone else one-upped him. Thurgood Marshall, you get to be this. Actually, no, you get to be this higher position. That's pretty much everything that was happening with JFK, even though JFK is kind of associated with the civil rights movement. Number 5 is Harry S. Truman, the Fair Deal that attempted to continue the New Deal, Marshall Plan minus a lot of the anti-communist things like the Berlin Airlift and the UN. Those are things that I felt that are really good. Number 4 is Abraham Lincoln, freed the slaves and attempted to put partisanship aside to unify. Now, even though Abraham Lincoln's, of course, cliched to death, I mean, literally, bang, but I mean, you know, Abraham Lincoln was still relatively good. He didn't have, like, the best position, but he was still a really good position. Of course, there were people who were to the left of him on the slave issue. I say just to the left because, you know, whatever. It would take massive government to enact the ending of slavery. But, of course, the top 3 pretty much stay the same. Teddy Roosevelt, due to his progressive conservationism and a lot of charisma with And with the fact that he actually left the two-party system so he could get his legislation done in a lot of regards. LBJ, due to the Civil Rights Act, Great Society, Medicaid, Medicare, war on poverty, expanded NASA. You know, Mr. B made a whole song about that. So, there's that. And, of course, FDR at number 1, with the New Deal, ending the Great Depression, despite many people say, well, actually, there's some evidence to suggest that. No. I mean, no offense, but it seems to be a lot of the New Deal stuff that ended the Great Depression. Doing his best to lead us during World War II and being one of the closest things to a social democrat of all presidents. I'd say closest because I'm not necessarily sure if he's fully a social democrat, but, you know, pretty close enough. And, of course, possibly the new number 1, should he get elected in 2020. We may see. And I will rank Trump when his term of president is over. And when I say term, I mean it could be 8 years if he gets elected in 2020. But, I mean, if he's not, I'll rank him then. That's the end of the Q&A. I stretched out a lot of questions to a long time, so that's good. Thanks for watching this video. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe, and click that bell to be notified when a future video of mine comes out. And if you're interested in more political content from me, you can go to my website or follow me on Facebook, Twitter, or Quora, or check out my articles on the Independent Political Report. Do you want to ask me some questions? Well, you gotta wait till I get 200 subs, because I'm probably not gonna do it again, because, no offense, a lot of people don't really answer them. I do like fan interaction, believe it or not, so maybe if we can get a bit more of that, you know, no pressure.